Hi guys, Melissa here from CloudMom. So one of the things I've been really fortunate to be able to do with my kids is to fly with them a lot on airplanes. We've been lucky enough to travel. We've gone to Europe quite a few times to visit family. My mother is Swedish. We have a lot of family in Europe. And you know, I've gotten quite used to the whole grueling process of getting 5 kids on a plane. It's gotten a bit easier with age. My kids are now 6 to 13, but it still requires a tremendous amount of organization and planning and sort of thinking through what are all the things that can happen to make sure everybody has as easy a flight as possible. So with all that being said, here are 5 tips when it comes to plane travel with slightly older kids. Okay, so the first tip, and I know this is stating the obvious, and I've given this tip before, do not overpack. This will add to your stress. You might think, oh, it's all fine. We have room in the car. Every kid can have their own suitcase. But you know what? It is going to weigh you down. Even if you're changing terminals at the airport, say you need to get everybody into one taxi, you are going to be much better off if you have less stuff, and you are not going to need most of the things you bring. This is not vogue. The trend lately is that everybody is so casual anyway. You don't have to worry about everybody like looking great, and it's fun to mix it up anyway. So bring very, very little. You might also be planning to buy a thing or two on your trip, so make sure you save room for that. This will greatly reduce your stress because transportation will be easier, packing will be easier, and you should really be able to streamline your whole experience if you have less stuff, okay? So that is tip number 1. My second tip, and this particularly applies to international flights, is to leave ridiculously early. I live in New York City. The traffic can be ridiculous. Kennedy Airport can get so crowded, especially around the holidays. It's a horrible feeling to show up in the airport and have, 150, 200 people in line before you checking in. It's not fun. Nobody wants to stand in line. And by the way, you're not going to be able to sort out or solve any of those little issues you have when you're down to the wire trying to check in. You also have to leave tons of time for security because that, as you all know, can take a really, really long time. So for the flight we plan to, soon take, we're going to be getting to the airport a day ahead. No, I'm just kidding. 4 hours before the flight. I'm not kidding. When we do that and we're the first to check in, everybody's relaxed. We go through security. We have like a nice leisurely meal. We wander over to our gate and there is no stress. This is what I highly, highly recommend. Tip number 3, because I don't want my kids on cell phones the whole time. I actually think airports are a really, really interesting place, as are airplanes. When I was little and I would take the plane to Sweden with my sister, we would actually get to know people on the plane. We would make friends. We'd braid each other's hair, we'd paint each other's nails, we'd do all these fun things, and we would actually meet people. Well, people don't really do that anymore, and it's a little bit sad. You can talk to your neighbor, but nobody's like waltzing, around the plane, increasing their network of social contacts. But I still do think it's good, number 1, for kids to just observe what's going on around them and all the different people and the diversity of people coming from different places and all the kind of cool people you see in an airport. I think that's good. And number 2, I don't think it's good to be for kids to be on phones or iPads, nor does my doctor, nor do most experts for, 12 hours. So bring some other things to do. Bring a book. Bring a book that was assigned for school, or go to the bookstore, get your kid a book first. And if they're really begging for their phone and they're really giving you a hard time, give them a limit. Say, you know what, I want 50 pages, and then you can have that phone for 15 minutes. Take control and use that time for them to do something productive. Kids are so busy these days with sports, activities, homework. They don't have a lot of time to read. They don't have a lot of time to draw. My girls are going to have like sticker books. They're just going to have sort of fun, non-messy, transportable project-like things to make the trip a little more fulfilling. So recommend that you guys pack those things up too, and all the kids can have these things in their own backpack. Next tip, start packing ridiculously early, a week, even 2 weeks before. Make a very, very detailed list, get all the big items in there, then start to think about the smaller items a couple days before. The night before, you should just be like popping in a little extra thing, and the day of, you should just be adding your toiletries case. Otherwise, it's too stressful. You will forget things, and that will cost you time on arrival. I highly recommend this. It's really made it possible for me to travel a lot with minimal stress, especially considering that I have a very chaotic household. My final tip, and this applies to older kids as much as it does to younger kids, keep your kids very well fed and hydrated, and try to make sure they get as much rest as possible. When we have our biggest meltdowns, and this applies to my teenagers, it's usually that they're hungry or they're starving, or they're like really bummed out that they didn't play in a basketball game or they didn't play well or something like that, and they're hungry or tired. These two things are so essential with kids. They are for us adults too. I noticed my husband getting quite grumpy when his stomach is empty, and you know the saying, you know, the way to a man's heart is through his stomach. Well, I think this is really, really true for kids. So definitely bring all those snacks, but not sugary snacks. Bring crackers, bring like cookies, but not the ones that are super sweet. Forget about candy, forget about big desserts. Try to keep the sugar to a minimum, but make sure you have plenty of stuff so that your kids are fed, they're not starving, and make sure they're drinking a lot so that they stay well hydrated. And you're gonna see, I think, better behavior. Traveling for most people is incredibly stressful. You've stepped outside of your comfort zone. You're dealing with unknowns. You're dealing with airplanes. You're dealing with delays. You're dealing with being in a new place where you feel disoriented. People are tired. They're not at their best in terms of how they behave, either you or your kids. Focus on all these things. Try my 5 tips. If all else fails and things are really running amok and going haywire, concentrate on breathing deeply. Try not to say too much instead of like exploding at your kids. Just try to stay calm, keep breathing, and remind yourself that in the end, you're gonna have an amazing trip. It's gonna be so enriching, and it will all be worthwhile. Wishing you guys an amazing trip.